Welcome to the Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week live web series. My name is Tatiana Antonelli Beya, and I'm the founder and managing director at Goumbook, a social enterprise accelerating sustainability and climate action in the UAE and beyond. The Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week live web series is a year-round platform for maintaining dialogue on leading issues and topics that are shaping the global sustainability agenda. Today's session, from classrooms to carbon neutrality, the role of education in shaping a net zero future, brings together top minds at the crossroads of education and energy, bringing together leaders from the UAE Ministry of Education, IRENA, and the Abdulla Al Ghurair Foundation for Education. This session will highlight transformative policies, innovative programs, and game-changing partnerships that are propelling us towards a greener, more inclusive tomorrow. Education and skills training play a critical role in empowering communities and supporting the overall transition to a net zero future. Unfortunately, education is often overlooked in the global transition agenda. I'm honored today to be joined by Her Excellency Dr. Amna Al-Shamsi, Assistant Undersecretary for Care and Capacity Building Sector at the UAE Ministry of Education, Gary Singh, Deputy Director General of the International Renewable Energy Agency, IRENA, and Dana Dajani, Director of Partnerships and Programs at the Abdulla Al Ghurair Foundation for Education. Good morning or good afternoon. It's a pleasure to have you here today. In this first round of questions, I would like to really talk about how we're taking stock of the current landscape, and I would love for you to share success stories. Your Excellency, Dr. Amna, what strategies or initiatives has the UAE Ministry of Education implemented to integrate the nation's net zero transition agenda into the educational system?
Hi, Tatiana, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone that are with us here today. It's really a pleasure to be here and to share some of our dreams and ambitions, starting from now and starting from before, actually, and going all the way toward COP28 and also beyond COP28. We, in the Ministry of Education, we some time ago have launched our roadmap and announced our roadmap toward greening education in the UAE. And that roadmap have been designed and founded on the Green Education Partnership Framework that has been announced by the UN and is being taken forward with the UNESCO. And that's through a partnership that we've established with UNESCO, UNICEF, OCE, that's Office of Climate Education, and many other partners nationally and internationally. Now, the roadmap, as with the Green Education Partnership Framework, focuses on the four main pillars. And when we talk about a roadmap, we often refer to UAE as an open innovation lab, where we can pilot on a scale innovative and new practices, and then work as a catalyst to bring those practices to the other educational systems so we can accelerate the implementation of some of the best practices in greening education across other educational systems as well. The four main pillars, as a lot of you might know about this framework, focus on greening schools, greening the capacities within the educational sector, greening the curriculum and the extra curriculum, and that goes into greening learning and also greening communities. So when we talk about greening learning, which is one of the fundamental pillars, the framework that the Ministry of Education have developed has started based on memorandum of understanding that we've signed with IRENA, where we were the first official educational government entity that signed an MOU with IRENA, who are with us today as well here. And we've developed a framework in collaboration with them that focuses on four main domains and develop strands and learning outcomes, focusing on building knowledge, developing skills, and instilling values as well. And that trickle all the way from early childhood to higher education. Now, with this framework, we've worked on developing guidelines for implementing the framework across the different curriculums. The UAE has a very unique setting within its educational system, is that it has so many different curriculums. And when we talk about piloting this in the UAE, it means that we're piloting it across so many educational systems that are within, or educational curriculums that are within the UAE. And this provides a platform to make it more accessible, implementable, adaptable, and scalable to other educational systems across the world. We also worked on developing the extracurriculum activities that goes with it. So we go from learning within the classrooms to learning outside the classrooms, not only within the school boundaries, but also outside the schools. And to ensure that this curriculum and extracurriculum are delivered properly and correctly, we also have the other pillar focusing on developing the capacities of the educators and the leaders within the educational system, and that goes from principals to every educator within the schools. So we have this mass training program that have been put in place in collaboration with multiple partners, among which are the UNICEF, and this training is designed in a way that we can also translate it and transfer it to other educational systems. That's why with every pillar, we focus on working with international partners and national partners as well. And along this, we as well have collaborations with the Al Ghurair Foundation, who is greatly supporting. So this panel is in a way working all together behind the scene to making this happen toward the future. The greening communities is as well another pillar that focuses on bringing the community and activating their relations within the school, and also allowing the schools to work as agents of change across the community. Because if we look at it, schools are the most distributed institutions across geographically, across all countries, which means if we are able to instill the change and the behavioral shift within those kids, they will take this back to their homes, they will take it to their communities, and they will make the change happen. And finally, we have the greening schools, which creates also or enables the school to set a role model for all other institutions around it and organizations, and implementing a full 7 steps model that is done in collaboration with the Foundation for Environmental Education, the FE, and also with Abu Dhabi Environment Agency that has started a program also since 2009 in creating greening and more green and sustainable schools across the UAE. Now, this is in a nutshell. There are so many details in each of these pillars, and there are so many partners that are working with us, but we can talk more about them in the next points.
Thank you, Dr. Amna. And definitely what is really interesting is the role of partnerships, because for years all over the world, we've been working in silos. And so finally to put together, governments and NGOs and global organizations to work together on such programs is really, really powerful and impactful. And especially looking also at training the adults, because when we're talking about education, we always think about the youth, but it's also interesting to see how you're looking at the community and at the educators. Many times the educators don't feel capable to support climate or energy education. So we're very lucky because today we have one of these partners. I would love to hear from Ms. Gauri Singh on the role that IRENA played in supporting these educational initiatives for a net zero future. So what are, if you have the notable success stories that came out from these initiatives?
Thanks, Tatiana. Thanks for having me at this really nice panel with really great panelists. I think in many ways what Dr. Amna said has given me a very nice segue into what I will be talking about, because when you talk net zero, you're really talking about energy transition that needs to happen. And energy transition, as we understand now, is a very complex transition that we will be seeing in our lifetime. And this transition will need skilled people. So while we are seeing globally, we are seeing the rate of deployment of renewables growing year on year. In fact, just last year, we had a record growth in the deployment of renewables on the ground, but also investments that have gone in. But the skills training and the educational offerings that are needed to kind of synergize and to provide the foundation for this energy transition to happen, they are unfortunately lagging behind. And as an intergovernmental agency, IRENA has the mandate to facilitate global partnership and cooperation for a sustainable energy future. Clearly advancing energy education at scale is one of very critical parameters that we think has to lie at the core of what is needed to make the energy transitions happen. So, if we really look at how countries have been looking at energy education, what you find is very ad hoc approaches to skill building, which definitely will not address skills shortages at the scale and also at the pace that we need and we think is necessary. So what is needed is a very integrated approach to this whole thing, which is, bringing in the ministries of energy, the ministries of labor, educational policy, and planning together. But bringing them together also with the educational institutions, you have industry, you have other intergovernmental bodies. So it's really about pulling together a kind of a strong alliance and a partnership that where you can exchange not just good practices, but you can foster further collaboration as what is needed. So with this in mind, at the last COP, which was held at Sharm el Sheikh, with the collaboration of the government of UAE, we launched what is called the Energy Transition Education Network, and this is a global multi-stakeholder partnership that brings together the leading actors that are at the forefront of energy and sustainability education, and it includes UNESCO, it includes Teach for All, IEEE, Association for the Development of Education in Africa. And its focus is not just the exchange of best practices, that of course is there, but it also focuses on the development of curriculum resources and also the analysis of the skill gaps and priorities that countries might have. So, and as Dr. Amna also mentioned, we are very much active member of the Greening Education Partnership, and our role is to bring expertise in energy education and skills. We, as was also mentioned, we have a MOU with the UAE Ministry of Energy, and we are very proud of the way the collaboration is moving in terms of being able to enhance the renewable energy learning within the new sustainability curriculum framework.
Tatiana, you're on mute.
Apologies. Thank you, Ms. Gary. This is really, really interesting. And what really comes through is always what you mentioned, developing skills. And this is where I would like to also bring in Ms. Dana Dajani on skills, also through her long time experience in different organizations and with youth. In this case, I would love to understand how the Abdulla Al Ghurair Foundation for Education is actually supporting the education specifically on energy transition, and where and how do you really foster these skills, and what is the impact that you had so far?
Great. Thank you, Tatiana. And it's been great listening to both Her Excellency, Dr. Amna and Gauri, about their different experiences. And I feel that, like they said, partnerships are so important. And this is a great example of that. I'll go back with our foundation, dating back to 2016 when we were sort of launched. We started off with our flagship program with the STEM Scholars Program around the Arab world, helping over achieving young people that can't have access to higher education due to different kinds of constraints and financial in particular. We provided a lot of different degrees in STEM fields, and these also included environmental engineering, sustainable energy systems, and environmental health. Many of these hundreds of young people have graduated and are now working in these fields, which is a wonderful thing to show that they're able to apply what they've learned and really speed up to what the market is needed. The second thing we looked at is in 2017 was looking at online learning and really broadening access to people to get access to higher education in the form of master degrees. And in particular, people that are working and can have time in, flexible hours for online learning. And one of the master's degrees was in sustainability leadership. And so they're able to contribute back into their workplace in particular. And then we also, in 2018, our chairman launched his own personal fund that supported refugee education, the Abdulla Al Ghurair Refugee Education Fund. We have 3 interesting programs that we've been working in Jordan and in Lebanon. In Jordan, we've trained around 200 young people so far on solar and energy efficiency and e-mobility and electrical vehicles, among other things that are in green energy jobs. And this was what really struck me that I think was very important, is looking at gender and energy and education, because a lot of these jobs have been proven successful for these young women that didn't have access to such jobs, but also they're able to go into homes during the day when the husband is away at work because they're women and culturally that's acceptable. And at the same time, they're able to create awareness. And I feel that that 2 kind of folds was very important. Another things that we looked at was also supporting these vulnerable young people or refugees on how to install solar panels, through a partnership in Tripoli, where the government is stressing on getting the solar panels out there, but there's not enough people to be able to fix them or maintain them or install them. Then we also looked at automotive technology, hybrid maintenance in Jordan, and looked at accredited certification so that these young people have access to jobs. And the certificate that they got was from Bosch certificate, as well as accredited by the ministry in Jordan. And of course, in 2021, our CEO, Dr. Sonia Ben Jafar, was appointed as a chairperson to the Global Councils for the SDGs and looks at it as a nexus model. So it's not just looking at education, but how all the SDGs come together to influence education in a sense and vice versa. And then this year, what we're hoping to work on is we've partnered with AUB since 2015, but we're looking at certifications in green technologies for young people in the region. In the UAE in particular, we're inshallah starting a partnership with the Emirates School Establishment and local-based organizations to sort of create awareness about it's more of an enrichment learning program that is after school, but it also includes sustainability, climate change among Emirati learners and their teachers, communities, etc. Very happy to, inshallah, be partnering with Goumbook on that as well. And then last but not least, we're very excited, as Her Excellency Dr. Amna mentioned, we're excited to be collaborating with the ministry and privileged to be part of their roadmap, inshallah, on the greening communities in particular, and looking at ecopreneurship boot camps, climate awareness, and as Her Excellency said, education shouldn't be just constrained to the school, but how do we reach these young people or the communities at large so that we can actually effectively apply what they're learning in the communities and vice versa. So this is us in a nutshell, our roadmap.
So really looking at youth as ambassadors to bring the message and the skills outside of the school and putting them in practice. This is it's really inspiring, because sometimes we feel like education is confined to the classroom and it stays there. And so finally to see it, really expanding to competencies and real jobs, because at the end of the day, this is what we need to do. There is a phenomena that has been highlighted in the past, I would say 5 years globally, and it's also landed in the UAE. which is called the eco-anxiety. I'm sure you've heard about it, where the youth hears so much about climate change and the big challenges that we're facing for the future that they actually feel powerless and depressed. So I really believe that such programs are really empowering for our youth to really take action. And this is also the role of COP, right? We really, it's a big call to action. You've been mentioning a lot of work being done by the government and by different organizations. What is the role of the private sector here? How are you working with them, engaging? Are they able to support these efforts? This is maybe a question to the three of you.
I can jump in here. There is, from the learnings that we've seen on the ground, there is a very big gap with industry sort of collaboration. And from our end, what we're trying to do is to encourage their collaboration even more. I'll give one example of our course that we're doing in Jordan on green energy and sort of the green skills that I talked about. It's with the Al Hussein Technical University. But what they have done is they've collaborated with industry. So SMA, as an example, an energy efficiency company, has provided the university with their machines and their latest equipment so that these young people don't end up just learning, but they're actually graduating to be able to actually work on the latest technologies. And I think this is vital. The other thing that we've been looking at is work integrated learning. And with the AUB, what work integrated learning does is it helps industry and academia really collaborate to address this skills mismatch inside the university, and not wait until they graduate and say there's a skills mismatch. So they're co-curating and co-designing the green technologies sort of curriculum, but also providing case studies so that they feel ownership over it and share the responsibility, because they can't just be saying that these are future jobs and there's energy jobs, but these young people are not skilled to be part of the process, to be curating it with academia. And so this is what we're trying to encourage as an example.
Maybe I will add a little bit here as well, Tatiana, to what Dana has said, is that the linking the students from within the classrooms to the actual private sector by providing them some elite training opportunities, internships within the industrial sector that is most related to their passion. And specifically when we talk about energy, students are very much invested and interested to go into the sector. So linking the students to those training opportunities on the job while they are doing their studies academically enables the students to be well prepared for the job market and to be better prepared to join the task force without having that skills gap that is always talked about when we talk about the skill gap between academia and the job market. And that does not only apply to students starting from the higher education, but also goes down to students starting from high school. We have to start early to allow the students to understand what are the skills that they need to focus on, to allow them to identify their passion in which sector and with relevance to which area, whether it's energy or it's any other related area toward greening the economy or toward investing in knowledge-based economy in general.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Dana and Dr. Amna. This was really interesting, and I would love to hear also from Gary, her experience with the private sector.
Thanks, Tatiana. I think what Dana and Excellency Amna have said is extremely relevant, but maybe I can just add one aspect of some of the conversations that we are having at IRENA with CEOs across many sectors. And what they've been saying is that they feel that talent is going to be one of the biggest bottlenecks. And it's, because they're so concerned about how they will be able to attract and retain the right people, they are also making efforts to partner with educational institutions and be able to give some kind of a continuum of training and job security to the young people, because obviously, when you're talking about skilling people, you need to have that very close link with the private sector, which is really where maximum number of the skilled people will go. And just to give you a statistic on how the investments actually play out in the renewable energy sector, almost 70% of the investments for renewable energy deployment come from the private sector. So they're naturally very big players in terms of looking at plans ahead. And they've been very active in creating these partnerships with educational institutions, with vocational institutions, to be able to make sure that they have the right people as they move forward on their trajectory to get more renewable energy projects on the ground.
Thank you very much, Gary. I would like to ask Dr. Amna, in her opinion, what specific policy changes or investments are needed to prioritize education and skills development in the global agenda for the energy transition?
Thank you, Tatiana. I think what we require at this point is to have one unified language spoken between all educational systems. As you might have mentioned before, there were a lot of efforts, but they were so fragmented. So many people were working so hard, but working in silos, which did not give the accumulated impact that could those efforts bring forward if they were unified, aligned, and created in a way that makes it accessible and applicable for other educational systems. And one of the things that applies to climate challenges and challenges related to energy sector is that they are universal in a way. We talk about the same challenges worldwide, with different adaptation that needs to be taken into account when you adapt it to the local context, geographically, culturally, and education, depending on the level of or the challenges that are related to the educational system within every country. So working from a higher level, on the level of the international organizations, whether they are UN agencies or international NGOs or other interdisciplinary or intersectoral agencies, these agencies can work as the bigger, let's say, adaptation accelerator that can provide the means for different educational systems to talk together. So one of the things we're trying to do through the plans that we have devised in the UAE for our educational systems and for others as well, through the preparation that we have for COP, is that everything we have implemented or we have started implementation across the different pillars that we've mentioned, we made sure that we work on it with international organizations and make sure that those resources are going to be brought forward as open source for any educational system, and with proper guidelines to adapt those resources depending on the local context. Because as we said, there are commonalities when it comes to climate change and energy challenges, and there are localized contexts that need to be taken into account as well. So with this in mind, if the same methodology is adopted and taken forward by other agencies, by other even not government educational institutions and organizations in different countries, for whatever resources they develop, to keep that in mind and to talk one unified language. And maybe that's what Green Education Partnership Framework have provided, that common language that everyone can talk and everyone can use. And with using it and adapting it, we can create faster, more accelerated, more adaptable, scalable resources that other educational systems can utilize. Now, with that said, we have to also think about the fund that needs to be provided to make that possible. So we need to think also about the different global funding entities and to focus more on funding climate education. and to support the educational systems to create those energy transitions and embed those energy transitions within their educational systems. And that could be with collaboration with the Global Partnership for Education or the Adaptation Fund or other specialized funds that are focused on funding climate education and providing the necessary resources to ensure that the global north and global south are progressing evenly toward a more climate ready and energy transition ready citizens.
Thank you, Dr. Amna. And this is definitely following the SDGs, right? The Sustainable Development Goals, on trying to create a unified effort through partnerships and common platforms. Dana, I would like to ask you, going back also to the reskilling efforts, because here what we're trying to do is to really help youth and not only youth to reskill themselves. So what are the main challenges that are faced today? And if you found them, what are the innovative approaches that you've seen to address them?
Okay, so from our learnings on the ground, we've identified 4 key learnings, if you like. The first one, looking at lack of awareness. Many people, including whether it's educators, students, or communities, may not fully understand the implications and opportunities and impact that are associated with renewable energy and other sustainable technologies. I think what Her Excellency Dr. Amna mentioned about common language is extremely important, because they keep getting different kinds of whether it's abbreviations and acronyms and, terms and our sort of, terminology. I think we need to also think about a common language that we speak with communities and with students by simplifying it. And I'll give you an example of a couple of women I met in a village in the north, in Lebanon, who said, so if we keep the water on or electricity is on, you think that's going to affect the whole world? Us, So I think these simplifying practices and really showing them different tools and what they could do is also extremely important. Sort of an innovative approach that we would like to look at within the lack of awareness. We don't see that education, as we mentioned before, is only constrained to the classroom. We're lucky, and this is not only because Her Excellency is here, but we are lucky to have a Ministry of Education in the UAE that not only comes up with a roadmap that is puts on a bench, but it's also applied. We're all partners. There's other partners out there as well. But I feel that we really need to also find a way to be able to scale the learnings of the UAE and the ministry to other ministries in the region in particular. Awareness campaigns, and as we've been designing and looking at, like we did with Goumbook, on greening communities. It's so important, these extracurricular education activities, programs that focus on energy, they help create awareness with the students and the wider community. The parents are extremely important. And we feel that visualization is important, gamifying sort of the education and energy is important, hands-on experiences and role models who they can relate to spread awareness. The second sort of challenge that we've seen is the limited availability of curricula and resources. So this is one thing that we're looking at, is specifically tailored to the energy transition. And I think we had this discussion just earlier with industry and how we can provide updated information that's regularly updated. Arabic resources are limited. And, we need to also bear in mind that the wider communities, especially in the region, English is not a language that they understand, but also the culture. So it's not just about translating, but it's contextualizing, it's localizing these kinds of programs. And then the third sort of challenge that I wanted to talk about is the training and professional development. You alluded to the reskilling, which I think is very important. A lot of people that we have spoken to have fear that, whether it's automation that will take over, whether they won't be able to know how to do these big words, and big things, where when you give them the practices, then they feel, I'm able to do this. So I think vocational education is extremely important, but also reskilling the employees that are there and providing them with the space to be able to do that, and access kind of, training programs that are not only a training that will give them, I've completed the training, but also that are accredited or industry recognized. And lastly is, and we've had a discussion about this, but the industry academia and the industry collaboration. A lot of the industry, that we have spoken to sometimes feel that satisfied with their CSR activities. This is no longer enough. We need to have them more integrated and really, as Her Excellency mentioned earlier, address that skills mismatch. And we feel that, there's different ways that they're able to really be part of it. The internship programs, internship not only in the sense of a very short internship, but give them a project to do, give them something that they can come back with. Joint research projects where they can act as, some of their employees with the students can do a research together. Mentoring is very important, we felt. And some of the private sector we've spoken to have asked us to do training for them on how to do an internship that's successful and meaningful, how to be a mentor, because it's not something that they were trained for example. Experiential learning, I mentioned this before with work integrated learning. These are different kinds of tools, whether it's cooperative education, and this is a way for industry and academia to get together, but also it gives young people the opportunity to go and work in industry for a while, but get credit for it as well at university. And different other ways that you can really foster these positive attitudes, because we're looking at behavioral change, we're looking at awareness, but also at a skilled workforce. So it's a sort of like a full path or journey, not only looking at one angle.
This is so true. And we tend to talk about, energy transition or net zero or climate and waste, circular economy. And somehow every time we go deeper in these topics, we realize how everything is interconnected. Again, the role of the private sector, as you said, is very important for themselves as corporations, as businesses, to be aware. And what from my side I've witnessed in the past few years is that things are changing very rapidly in the private sector. There's a big movement towards from CSR towards action, sustainability, and COP28, I have to say, has been a big push for everyone to really even ask the question, what is COP? What is our role as private sector? What are we supposed to do? Everyone is really interested to understand how to take action. The big question to COP and to the leadership is like, what is our role? How can we contribute? And I feel here, this is going to be really interesting also to hear from your side, how looking ahead to COP, really how this has impacted your work and all the initiatives. So I would love to understand, and this is a question to all of you. First of all, what specific outcomes or action related to education and the energy transition you're hoping to see at COP?
So maybe I could just start. So Tatiana, one of the very dominant narratives with energy transition is the just energy transition. And that, of course, when you're talking about a just energy transition, people tend to focus on reskilling and upskilling of the current workers and the current people who are involved in these sectors. But we need to actually invest in education and in training to build a talent pipeline and train the future energy professionals and the workers that we will need for energy transition. And just to give you a number, from IRENA analysis, what we've seen is that in 2021, there were nearly 12.7 million people employed in renewable energy sector. And if we as a global community stay on the path of the 1.5 degree compliant pathway, we are likely to see the creation of almost 139 million jobs in energy transition, of which by 2030, of which almost 38 million are going to be in renewable energy, but nearly 75 million in areas like energy efficiency, electric vehicles, power systems, flexibility, and hydrogen. So which means that it's really very important to identify and address these skilling gaps so that we don't have these gaps happening. And naturally, when we're looking at COP, which is such a great opportunity to get an increased emphasis on renewable energy education, because formal educations don't adequately cover renewable energy and energy transition knowledge. They pretty much leave it to science subjects without giving the young people and the educators the social and the contextual understanding what is necessary. What we also need to remember is going into the energy transition is not about just the workforce and the young people, but it's also about a much more informed society, because a lot of issues will happen when we are dealing with the behavioral patterns of people. So we need to also build a much more informed society moving forward. And what better way to be looking at this than to involve the educators, who are really some of our most powerful resources in building knowledge, in imparting values, and also imparting the skills that are needed for the sustainable energy transition. So for us, I think on the road to COP and beyond, we will be at IRENA promoting a campaign to build the capacity of educators on renewable energy. And we are calling this Teaching for Net Zero campaign. And it will be delivered in collaboration with UAE and also the members of the Energy Transition Education Network. And as a part of this campaign, we are also at COP, we'll be launching a curriculum and a teacher's resource pack on teaching for net zero, which focuses on the intersection between climate and energy, because we think that it's very important to have these kind of resources that will enable teachers and the education ministries to integrate renewable energy learning into their teaching practices across subject areas and across age groups. So it's not just secondary education, but starting from primary, secondary, to higher education, and also vocational education. So we really think in terms of a call for action for COP28, we would like to see education and educators being placed at very much the core of all climate action efforts.
This is a big call to action. And I really hope this is going to be the case. Definitely what you're saying is true. We cannot limit specific education to specific groups. Otherwise, there's not going to be a behavioral change within the community. So everyone should be aware of what net zero is. This is, again, a question that a lot of people ask. There's very little awareness on it. Same thing we could say about agriculture and food security and other very important topics. Dr. Amna, from a government point of view and from a ministry point of view, what are the outcomes that you hope to see really at COP?
Thank you, Tatiana. I was hoping to conclude to go last, but I will go now for this question. One of the things that we focused on in the roadmap toward COP28, and maybe I did not mention earlier, just to make sure that I mention it at the right time now, is putting the education at the forefront of the COP28 agenda. We've seen education in the previous COPs being fragmented, present in so many pavilions and venues and discussions, but we haven't really seen it in a way that it is put with a full focus, whether it's from the higher leadership perspective all the way to the visitors and to everyone that are involved in COP28, politicians, decision makers, and the public audience that are also present at the COP. So at this COP, for the first time, we have the Education Pavilion that is championed by the Ministry of Education, along with so many partners, some of the partners that are gladly as well with us here today, and some of our international partners. As we know, we've mentioned earlier, the Green Education Partnership Framework is the basis for everything that we've done. That's why, as well, Green Education Partnership with all the 4 pillars are going to be present within the pavilion. And we're going to work with the UNESCO and a lot of the international partners and a lot of our national partners to ensure that this pavilion is designed, developed, governed, and move forward in a way that makes it sustainable. We don't want it to be only a one-time education pavilion. We wanted a pavilion that will be present at every COP in the future. And we are working closely with so many of the organizations to ensure this and to create that governance model that will create it or will provide it as part of the legacy. Always the UAE, when hosting such an international platform, try to make sure that it leaves a legacy going forward. And that's part of what we want the educational legacy leaves forward in the future COPs as well. This will allow the educators to get the focus that they deserve. Educators are a very strong drive for the climate response, for the global climate response, and we want them to be recognized as so. And this platform, this pavilion, is going to provide that venue for educators to have their voices heard, to be listened to, and to ensure that they are put at the forefront and recognized from the top leadership level to everyone that are going to be there at COP.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amna. And this is definitely a very big announcement to have the first education pavilion here at COP28. So we really look forward to that. I know, as you mentioned, that a lot is going on in different partnerships. And so I would like to bring back Dana also to ask her about, the important outcomes that you're working towards and that you want to see amplified at COP28, which I know involves different partners.
Yes, I mean, we're very excited about the Education Pavilion. I feel it is an example to other ministries because the Ministry of Education should be a catalyst and bringing us all together, which we're very excited towards working towards that. And, the important outcomes we're working on, I will build on what Her Excellency has said and what Gary has said as well. For us, the investment in green education and increasing that investment, for us, it's looking for people that are interested in co-financing so that we really leverage these resources, avoid the duplication and maximize the impact for our young people. We'd like to also see that there's more upskilling and reskilling in the energy-related sectors. So we're calling for partners, it's multi-stakeholder approach, particularly industry, in coming forward to say, what are the skills they need? What are the skills and specializations that are going to come up for jobs, in particular job creation or new jobs? We feel it's crucial to prioritize the upskilling and reskilling of young people to really ensure that they're equipped with the right skills and tools so that they become a skilled workforce and a pipeline in the energy transition. And secondly, we feel that, it's still very important that the communities, we hope that by COP28 and what we're focusing on, and as Her Excellency said, we don't look at it as an event, but it's continuing the COP28 beyond the legacy, but it's working with the community level and scaling to the region. We incubate in the UAE, we learn, and then how do we scale that to the region? We're interested in being able to learn from what we've done here to take it to the region as well. And we just hope that we can empower these young people, bridge skills and the gaps between the energy and education, find these linkages, find more partners, and work towards contributing towards the sustainable and low sort of carbon future, inshallah. You're on mute, Tatiana. Sorry.
Thank you very much, Dana, and everyone. This has been really a very interesting and insightful session. At least for me, I've learned a lot on what is being done, on the great work that's being done. And again, there's not enough awareness, maybe also on all this great work behind the scenes. Today, it's been a session that has highlighted definitely the critical role of education, and not only at the youth level, but I would say at a broader level in enabling a just transition. We've discussed transformative policies, innovative programs, game-changing partnerships. I think one of the big aspects of today's session has definitely been highlighting partnerships that can enable change and that will really propel youth and everyone into a greener and more inclusive tomorrow. We've also spoken about how to equip individuals with more knowledge, more skills, and the values needed to navigate complex sustainability challenges. Definitely education plays a critical role in empowering communities at all levels. Again, we're looking at education at a global level for everyone to come in and to support the overall transition to a net zero future. So it's been really interesting also to hear from you about the upcoming ambitions for COP. We're all very excited about COP, and almost we want it to be soon, because I think there's a lot of expectations for COP and for the UAE to do really important announcements and to look at transformative action on a global scale. So I really want to thank you again for sharing your time and expertise with us today. A big thank you to our audience also for following us. And this web series is available on the Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week YouTube channel and on its live platform as well. Thank you very much from me, and see you very soon. Thank you.